Hey, what's up YouTube? It's me, John, again. So, if you notice, I have the same background as before, and I'm wearing the same hoodie as before. Two reasons for that. One, I'm literally recording this video right after I got done finishing the last video. The reason being is for ease of recording purposes, and because of my schedule while I'm deployed, is that I might have a whole day where I don't do anything, and then I'll be busy for the next 30 consecutive days. Because I don't know if you guys notice or not, but deployed service members, you don't get any days off when you're deployed. If you're deployed for 2 months, you're literally working every day for 2 months. You might get an hour or two off on like a Sunday to go to church or whatever house of worship you prefer, but that's it. And I don't go to church, so I don't have to worry about that. So because of that, I just kind of record all the time. I record pretty much whatever I'm working on at the time. I'll just make consecutive videos, and then I edit them down to whatever I want to do. And then I'll post them and spread out the posting times so that you guys aren't getting bombarded with 30 or 40 videos a day. So last time we discussed my goal of by December 31st, 31 days, yeah, December 31st of 2021, I want to be worth $500,000. Now, I want to clarify that that's my personal net worth. I have a fiance and she has her own savings and retirements and stuff like that, but I'm not counting that. I'm counting just me, just my personal goal of having that much money by then. So I wanted to kind of go into an overview of exactly how I plan to have this happen. The thing is that when it comes to saving, or, well, when it comes to net worth, I don't really think income's as important as some other people do. Now, it is true that you obviously need to make a livable wage, and we'll probably talk about that at some point, but I feel like if you're getting in that topic, you're kind of talking about politics, which is something I want to avoid. But I found, while I was in the military, I used to teach classes on how to budget properly. And it was usually either the much older people who have kids and a wife, or it was like the really young people with no liabilities. The middle ground, like the people I would say that are like in their mid to late 20s but are still single, they pretty much had good handle over their stuff. They kind of already learned some of their lessons, and although they were single, they kind of drew back their savings plans a little, or their spending habits a little bit, so that they could better control their finances. So the younger people the military doesn't really pay you very well when you first start off, but they made a good amount of money for not having any responsibility. You know, $1,500 to $2,500 a month isn't that bad. That's take home, that's not taxes, by the way. So I always encourage them to try to save for retirement. The military has a great system called TSP, or Thrift Savings Plan, which I'll go into in huge detail, but I need to do some research to kind of brush up on that first, because I don't want to tell you guys the wrong information. Well, the thing is with the TSP, at the time that I was in, it didn't match. So it was hard to convince people to put their own money away for retirement, especially when you're 18. And I kept trying to explain that, you know, but when you're 18 is the best time to do it. In fact, it's better to save when if you're saving the same amount of money, it's better to save from 18 to 30 than it is from 30 to 60. You just more time for it to compound, and you end up getting more in the end. But we'd sit down and we'd budget. So I want to talk to you about some of my budgeting philosophies. I do not believe you get rich based on how much you make. I believe that the biggest factor in you becoming rich, depends on how you define rich, but my definition of rich, my biggest thing is how you spend your money. It's very easy to spend money when you're younger, but the thing is that if you control your spending when you're younger, you'll be better off in the long run, I believe. Now, it does not mean that you shouldn't go out there and have fun. That just means plan for it. And that brings me to budgets, actual written budgets. I've said this a million times, but I tell everybody, I'm like, look, get used to checking your finances every day. I do it every day. I have about 4 apps I check every single day. Some are investment, like my credit report I check every day. Well, not every day, I get alerts on that, but and I have a budgeting app, which I'll go into more later, but I don't want to right now. Because I use spreadsheets, sometimes I use online things. My bank itself comes with its own like sort of budget tracker. So, budgeting. Let's just talk about getting started with budgeting. If you're watching this video and you decide, you know what, I'm going to start a budget, the first thing you do is, this is providing you are like me and you're mostly a card spending person. I hardly ever use cash, but let's say you do. Open up your bank account, print off, or you don't even have to print it, but I like to print because I like to have the paper in my hands, but I print off the last 2 months of my bank statement from my checking account. If you use your credit cards, also do your credit cards, have everything in there. And then all I want you to do is track your spending for the last 2 months, because you can't. What I find happens is when I'm doing a budget with somebody, I'll ask them a question like, how much money do you spend on fast food? Especially younger people, and they're like, oh, I probably spend like $50 a month. And then you do their budget and you plan for $50 a month. But then the problem is that they don't spend $50 a month, they spend like $200 a month, plus another $300 on booze and, you know, $100 on coffee. And you think I'm exaggerating with these numbers, but that's what it's like for a 19, 20-year-old in the military. That's really what they spend their money on. But I assume that even in the civilian world, there's what I call leakage. It's all these, like, you go to the gas station, you get yourself a bottle of water, a candy bar, and a pack of cigarettes or something. Well, what I just explained is like $12. And if you're doing that every couple days, that adds up. I mean, you're doing it 3 times a week, that's $36. So, I'm terrible at mental math, but, you know, that's like that's $130 something a month. Somebody's gonna math check me, I'm gonna feel really bad, because in my head, I'm still trying to figure out, I don't know the exact number, and I don't feel like figuring it out. So, just forgive me for this, for having the weak numbers. But the thing is that when it comes to a lot of this stuff, it's hard to go off what somebody thinks they spend. And what I prefer to do is figure out what they actually spend. And coffee is a big thing in the military. Everybody drinks coffee. They go to McDonald's, because most bases have McDonald's on base, or they have Starbucks on base, or right outside the base, so they every day, or Dunkin' Donuts, Wawa, whatever. For those of you who don't know who Wawa is, it's a lifestyle. It's amazing. Go on the East Coast and you'll see it. But they go to all these places, and it adds up. So what I do is I track it, and I'll go and I'll make different categories. And if I notice things like hey, you went to, you know, you got coffee here, here, and here, so I'll make a whole category. I'll have, you know, food, and then a subcategory will be like groceries, and then coffee. And if they're spending $200 a month on coffee, that's not necessarily a bad thing, if that's planned. If they know they're spending that much money and that's what they're planning to do, they don't mind spending that much money. So what I try to do is, once I add up and know what they're spending over 2 months, because 2 months will give you a good average, I think. Once you figure that out, then you can start planning for what they're going to spend in the future. Now, a budget, it's meant for you to sort of stick to, but it's meant even more to be realistic. So when you're doing a budget and you're like, you say like, oh yeah, well, I'm just not going to eat out next month. And that's great, that's a great goal. That's, you know, potentially $200-300 of savings depending on how much you eat out. I know when I was in the military, I was eating out a lot. So anyway, so when I would do the budget, I would always tell them, tell me exactly what you want. Let's start there. Let's start with what you want to spend, or what you would like to spend. For example, I know one female I was doing her budget for, she liked to go shopping every week. Every like Saturday, I think it was, she liked to go out shopping. But the thing is that she would only spend like $20 a week. So she was asking me like, oh well, should I stop shopping? And we kind of talked it over. And I'm like, well, do you enjoy it? And she's like, yeah. And she'll go out. What she would do is window shop a lot. Like she'd go to the mall or she'd go to the store. Like at the time we lived in Jacksonville, and they had this big outdoor mall called Town Center. And she'd go there, and she would spend the entire day there. But she only spent $20-$30, and like half of that was on food. She might get like a shirt, but she enjoyed going to the store and window shopping and seeing different things, trying different things on and stuff. Now as a guy, that sounds awful to me, but to her it was like a big thing. So we decided, no, don't stop that. If that's what you want to do, then do that, but just plan for it. So we just gave her a budget of spending $30-$40 a week on shopping, and then whatever she didn't spend, we could either roll over into the next shopping spree, which is what we ended up doing with her, or what I was trying to do is like whatever you don't spend, just invest. She would rather roll it in, so like once a month she'd kind of actually go out and like buy stuff instead of just window shop all the time. And that's fine. That's what she liked, and we all have our habits. Like as a guy, I was a car guy for a while. Now I'm kind of getting away from that, and my main thing now that I have a fiance and a kid, and we're thinking about having another baby, my priorities have shifted a little bit. But that's just how we're doing it. So, when you budget, you want to come up with how much you're spending first. So, once you know how much you're spending, this is what I think is ideal. And I'm just going to throw this out. We can debate about this all day about what's good, what's bad, everything like that. I think your total living expenses should be half of what your income is. Meaning, your rent, your utilities, your food, car, insurance, gas, your gym membership, everything that you need to live should be 50% of your total income. And I'm not saying that you need to go and slash all this stuff. I'm just saying that for me is what I try to keep mine at. Now, the other 50% is 30% is invested long term. That's all stuff that I'm not touching. It's retirement. In fact, when I talk about my total net worth, most of it is made of that. The 20% remaining is other types of savings. Now, I have 3 different savings accounts. I have a emergency account. Currently, okay, so your emergency account should be kept. So, okay, for everybody it's different, but for me, I want to keep $10,000 in my emergency account. I do not have it funded at $10,000. My emergency account right now is funded at about $4,000. The reason I say $10,000 in your emergency account is so that you can fix major things that go wrong with either a car, house, stuff like that. So if something major goes wrong, you go. When I was in the military, I used to keep a large amount of money because I don't know if you know this, but if you're in the military and let's say a family member passes away, the military will give you leave, but you're still responsible for all of your travels. So if I was in, let's say, Washington State, or I was even stationed in Greece for a year, I would be responsible for the overnight ticket for me and my ex-wife at the time to Philadelphia, which is where I was from, and back. So you're talking about like $2,400 that I would have to pay for like that, and I wouldn't have any warning. So so $10,000 is what I think emergency. Reserve should be, most people say 6 months of income. I do not have that. I am working towards it very slowly, but it's kind of lower on my priority list right now, unfortunately. Part of the reason it is because my fiance is military. Now, I was military. Now I'm a military contractor. I still work with the military, I still deploy, but I am an advisor now. My main job is around teaching the military different intelligence aspects and stuff like that. So I still deploy for like 6 months, 10 months, whatever, but I actually just get paid a lot more to do it. That's not me telling you to get out of the military. If you're in the military and go into contracting, I'll probably make a separate video about the benefits and whatever for that. But because my fiance is military, and because I feel like I have a pretty stable job, if I am to lose my job for whatever reason, my fiance still has hers, and hers pays pretty well. I mean, say what you want about the military, but it's not as low paying as people make it sound. Once you get higher in rank. So your third account, and then it's just your savings account. Now your savings account should pretty much have two different things in it. Yearly expenses should be in there. Like, I know most people watching this video probably have Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime is a yearly expense, which means that you should actually be putting money away each month for that. I pay an HOA. I put money away each year for that because it's a yearly HOA. Other things go in, like I have antivirus, I have VPN. Both of those I pay for yearly. I have a few other things I pay for yearly. I don't really remember what it all is. I think at one point I'm going to break down my budget for you guys to show you exactly what it is. So the other thing that should go into your regular savings is like any goals you have. I mean, we all like take vacations, we all like to travel, and even if you're not doing that, I mean, like Christmas, birthdays, I mean, you know, Christmas used to be an easy holiday for me back when I was single living in barracks. Now it's like I have a fiance and a kid, and the kid's a teenager now. So, you know, that's the thing about teenagers, they like the expensive stuff. Like a couple years ago when he was like 11, he was asking me for like Gucci stuff for Christmas. Like, you're not getting a $1,500 t-shirt, man. I don't love you that much. I mean, I do love him a lot, but that's a lot to ask. Anyway, so once you got the budgeting, and you have it all written down, the next thing is pretty important, and it's actually tracking your progress. And I think that's something we have a hard time doing as people. I think people have a hard time, I mean, I don't know if you've ever had, but I've had it before where I was low in my like checking account, so I just wouldn't check my checking account, as if somehow me not checking it made it any better than, but it's like if I don't check it, look, I'm just not going to worry about it right now, I just can't even look at it. You have to get over that, you really do. You have to check your accounts, and you have to track what you're spending on, because ideally, if it's a non-essential item, like let's say shopping, like just shopping for non-necessities, if you run out of money on the 15th, then what you should do is just stop spending. We don't always do that, but that's what you should do, or at least plan it out better. But if you come up with a budget, but then don't track to see if you're staying on budget or when you're over budget, then you're failing. And the thing is that it's okay to go over budget sometimes, because maybe you just estimate it too low and you need to go higher on a certain budget. You can work that out. You know, if you're spending more money on gas, then it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll go to the movies one day less that month or each month, so that I can then afford the extra money for gas. You know, you can do that. So if you can figure out a way to do that, I really think that's optimal, and I really think people need to get over it and just kind of start tracking it. If you find yourself tracking it, I think you're just going to have more success. It's also going to hold you accountable. If you have a loved one, like a fiance, a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, maybe it'll help you keep on track better if they are involved in it. You know, somebody kind of holds you accountable. Make it a team effort rather than just a single thing on you. That's part of the reason that I want to make this video, because as we know, my goal is to have $500,000 by the end of next year. I'm putting this out to the world so that anybody can see it. So once I start doing updates on the video, you'll actually be able to see exactly what my progress is or isn't. So hopefully I don't have to extend it, but failing to meet a goal isn't in itself a bad thing. For example, let's say at the end of the next year I'm at $480,000. Like, yeah, okay, I missed my goal and that sucks, but I still did a lot. And you know, people need to stop thinking of budgets like you're either good or you're not. I think the goal should be to stick to it, but if you can relatively stick to it, that's still a step forward. That's still significantly better than what you're doing now. It's infinitely better than what you're doing now. So just give it a try, track it, and you know, good luck. I hope you stick with it. I would love to hear stories about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what your progress is as you go. I think that with the right community, people should be able to like root for other people, and we should hope success on everybody else. So good luck and keep saving.